Didn't you know? The original concept for the critically acclaimed PlayStation 4 exclusive Bloodborne was vastly changed for the final version that landed on store shelves in 2015. The direction was shifted at the point the press got wind of the working title Project Beast, which manifested itself into the gothic horror Lovecraftian masterpiece we all know and love today. Let me explain. In the game, every aspect of the experience revolves around blood, as the title suggests. You use blood as currency to buy new weapons and armour. You gain blood echoes by killing enemies that you can then use to level up your hunter. You find blood shards, blood chunks and blood rocks and use them to reinforce and upgrade your weapons.
It always comes back to blood.
Now, what if I told you that originally the base concept for the story was completely different? What if I told you that everything you think you know about this amazing game wasn't what was originally intended? What if what I was about to tell you would turn your world upside down? What if I told you that in the beginning the game did not revolve around blood, but semen? At this point, you might be thinking,
Right, I'm done. I came here to see cool-ass Bloodborne trivia, and this asshole's talking about jizz and stupid shit. I'm done. Bye.
Well, hold your horses, presumptuous Pete. Hear me out.
Bloodborne was being developed by From Software with everybody's favourite Hidetaka Miyazaki leading the project. In the game, players would enter the treacherous town of Yharnam, in which a terrible plague infects the residents, causing them to have an insatiable thirst for cum. As you traverse the jizz-littered streets, you would come across many intimidating and challenging foes, such as the cum-starved beast, the Hort of Hemwick, Big Dick Paul, Murgo's wet pussy, and of course, Lisa Ann, amongst many others.
Throughout the adventure, the player would have to return to a hub world, a small floating sex dungeon with a chapel at the centre, known only as the Hunter's Wet Dream. In the Hunter's Wet Dream, your hunter will be able to level up using the ancient memories of long-forgotten orgasms known as cum echoes, which the player would do through an inanimate inflatable love doll, but more on that later. Inside the chapel, there would have been a workbench where the player could upgrade their weapons and lingerie by applying one of the many cum rocks to their equipment, a dried up fossil of ancient hunter's cum crumbling away in the player's pocket. In some areas of the game, cum echoes could be found in large quantities in single items known as cold cum socks, to reward the player for their sexual exploration and to keep in their inventories, ready to be consumed at any time.
In an unreleased interview with Miyazaki, conducted by Game Pimple before the game's official announcement, he said, quote, "We've got something big in the pipeline that I think everyone is going to be very excited to get their hands on. I know I am already," he laughed. Back at the studio, we've built some very interesting new technology to render dynamic, physics-based fluids that realistically react to other objects in the environment. Do you smell salt? I smell something salty.
In Bloodborne, you are guided and mentored by a crippled old man that resides exclusively in the Hunter's Wet Dream, known as Gehrman, the First Hunter. Early on, the player would discover that the inflatable doll belongs to Gehrman and that he has been using it to pleasure himself throughout the years.
Good hunter, you have come.
This was how the player was originally supposed to be introduced to the concept of spilling their cum echoes into the doll in order to level up. We can see that the developers didn't remove the jizz splash effect when you attack the doll in the final version of the game. I'm going to throw a spoiler warning up now for anyone who hasn't finished Bloodborne, as the final secrets I am privy to would give away the final bosses and potentially ruin the game for people. So here it is.
So, as I'm sure many of you are now aware, the true final boss in Bloodborne is the Moon Presence, a great one. Well, I can finally confirm the originally intended ending to Bloodborne. About halfway through the game, the player would defeat Ron Jeremy the vacuous spider, and this would let the pre-cum moon hang low. Upon returning to the Hunter's Wet Dream, the player would find Gehrman to be gone. They would now have the ability to open a hatch underneath one of the carpets in the chapel and descend a ladder. Using the Hunter's fleshlight, you would discover a dumb little rocket ship with a picture drawn in crayon of Gehrman's face stuck on the side. After defeating the Spooge presence, it would be revealed that his entire life, Gehrman had an aching desire to plaster the world with his gentleman's relish, and throughout the years of him growing up, he found out that this wasn't a socially acceptable goal to have. And so he built a dumb little red rocket ship to take him to the moon, where he spooged far and wide, covering the surface area with his rancid spunk. This gave birth to the Spooge presence, a great one, born of the cum, as they say, which would then go on to cause the plague in the town of Yharnam.
Unfortunately, Sony of Japan, the intended publisher for Cumborn, wasn't very on board with the main focus of the game being based around cock juice, and requested that Miyazaki keep the core gameplay, but change some of the character models and assets to the much more appropriate and consumer-friendly theme of blood. This is the main reason why we will most likely never see a PC port of Bloodborne, as the game is so fragile that if anybody were to find their way into the game's code, or God forbid, intentionally clip through the environment, players would too easily be able to find the remaining assets of Cumborn, such as the dumb little rocket ship that still remains underneath the floor of the Hunter's Wet Dream.
Thank you for watching this totally factual video on the troubled development cycle of Bloodborne, and remember, we are born of the cum, made men by the cum, undone by the cum. Fear the old cum.